Cheers.
Talking wakeboard staples today, and today I have the supreme honor of talking to none other than Jake Pelot.
It's good to be here.
Jake, you and I's relationship started. I remember the exact day. We were at Lake Ronix. Mike Ferraro's out there. Early days of Lake Ronix. Early days. Big truck pulls up. Door opens up. Little shy guy walks out. Walks over. What's up, Jake Pelot? Mike Ferraro instantly puts you on duty of filling up buckets and walking them up a sand hill and watering palm trees.
Yep. I think I have the same memory of our first day, and I'm really curious to see if it actually is.
Here, drop it on me.
My first memory of actually meeting you, obviously I knew who you were in the wakeboarding industry, but I'm out here. You guys are having a Ronix team meeting under the tiki hut at the front beach.
Okay,
yep. My job at the lake at that time was watering the trees, as you said. And so you guys are having your Ronix team meeting. I think it was like a Wednesday meeting or something that you guys would do. And I wasn't really a part of the team. I was helping with R&D, but I was out here helping out. And so you guys start your meeting. I don't know what to do because I'm not really a part of the team. So I just keep watering the trees, start getting this crazy storm, and it's just pouring rain. And I was still watering the trees back and forth from the lake, filling up the bucket, dumping in the tree.
I think I kind of remember this.
Back and forth. And at some point during the storm, you're like, "Hey, kid, come on up here. Get out of the rain." And I was like, "No, it's okay. You guys are doing your thing." And you're like, no, come on. And I was so excited because I got to sit in and observe a Ronix team meeting. And you were the one that let me be a part of that. That's my first memory of us meeting.
Jakey, thanks. I appreciate that.
So where were you going with it?
No, I mean, and I remember you getting dropped off by your dad and basically you just having to deal with all things insanity from Mike Ferraro. You know what I mean? And in those days of the early Lake Ronix era, we were doing a lot of work out here. I mean, it was it was a jungle. It was uncivilized. We were in the elements. Like you said, the only place that we had any kind of relief from the weather was underneath that one tiki hut, or standing in the shipping container.
Yeah, it was a different lake back then.
Yeah, it was a different lake back then. It was different. But the amazing thing is that you've been here through pretty much the full evolution of the lake. And, as one thing I want to talk to that I really haven't talked to anyone else about is I feel like from those early days, like you were saying, you got to sit in the, that Ronix team meeting and take that in, obviously, along with being an insanely talented rider and, progressing wakeboarding, coming with an insane pro model with Tyler and whatever. But I feel like from the very beginning, you looked at wakeboarding and the industry and you saw a bigger picture of not just necessarily where you can take wakeboarding, what you can do with that, but how the industry works and how you can become a bigger part of the industry on the water, but also off the water. And there's not a lot of people that recognize the difference between those two at the age that you did. And I feel like that taking that route and understanding that the back end of the industry is just as important as being in the front half of the industry. We always, we're good friends. We have a lot of talks, but I'd like to hear your perspective on seeing it from a Grom, and how did you decide that you were going to take a broader spectrum of getting involved with R&D and helping dealers and boat shows and really understanding what makes the industry tick to grow along with the industry?
That's a very interesting question. I haven't really like specifically thought of that before, but I
Well, I was
think
hoping you did. That's why I
yeah,
asked it.
for sure. So I think originally probably the root of it was when I was 12 or 13 years old. Megan Ethel moved in with my family. She was living down here for wakeboarding and she was riding Ronix. And at that time, she was riding with Ferraro all the time. And I would just go sit in the boat. And he was the first one that gave me a shot at kind of a chance to get some free product and test it and do a lot of the durability testing and stuff on it. And so that was my like initial involvement with that side of like R&D. And it was super interesting to me to be able to have the opportunity to test all these boards and boots and kind of go
Right.
through the process of all that and see some of the back end of what goes into the development of all the stuff. And that part of it was really interesting and Ronix was super open to this random kid that Ferraro let do this stuff, and it was really cool to get to see behind the scenes of
Oh,
all the stuff
Jake.
that comes
Oh,
to
he's
it.
one of my best R&D guys.
So that was definitely like the opening point of like I had no clue how any of the stuff worked, and it was really cool to get to see behind the scenes and just be so openly welcomed into that side of things at a young age, and that was super interesting. And then from there, one of the most like impactful things for me was interacting with people like you and Adam Arrington and Chad and Parks and everybody that has been staples in the industry, and those like personal interactions were super cool. So the first time I got the chance to go do a demo with Brett Hargrave was like one of the coolest experiences ever to be a part of the industry side of
Hey,
doing a demo.
and where did you go?
I think we went up to, it was somewhere in North Carolina. I think it might have been Raleigh in North Carolina.
Right on. Lake
And
Norman?
yes,
Right on.
and it was really, really cool to be on that side of things, helping people get set up on the right boards. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but Brett did.
Hmm.
And so it was cool to kind of get the guidance and see the understanding of that and be able to, in a way, be on the other side of the interactions with people, helping them have a really cool experience on the water. And so that whole side of there's so many different levels of everything and different ways that you can be involved in everything, and every one of those just seemed interesting to me.
Right.
And that's kind of been my drive to it. And it's cool to see whether it's somebody wakeboarding for the first time or somebody learning a new flip or just having a good set. It's like that experience, like we know that feeling of a good set or learning a new trick or whatever, and being able to help with that for somebody else is
Right.
amazing. So that's kind of, I like to be involved in every little thing possible.
For sure, for sure. And I feel like it's massively paid off because, there's so many riders that can be insanely talented on the water, but don't understand the way the industry works and what it takes to, you can ride for a company, but, if you're good enough to collect a couple paychecks and, ride a board, whatever, like that's like just like scratching the surface of what it really is to be a professional rider. You know what I mean? And, just to have that understanding, I really feel like pushes you ahead of the curve, and it's been cool to see you understand that part of the world we live in.
Well, thank you. That's cool to hear from you, and you've been super influential in that as well. Like all
Do
the
what I can,
guys
Jakey. Do what I
and
can, bud. Do what I can.
everybody's involvement in the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's cool to see the family aspect and how
Yeah.
driven so many people are to help out in any way that you can, whether it's testing a new board or being on the road for 10 days with a rep doing demos or whatever it is. There's so many levels of involvement that are really interesting in their own way and
Right.
makes it fun, keeps it
Right.
interesting.
So for someone that has truly been here for every stage of Lake Ronix, what, like, as you've watched it grow from your perspective, like, what do you like? What have you been most excited about, or like memory wise, like what like really sticks out for you as like just like things like when you think about Lake Ronix, like what like what comes to mind first?
So I think the coolest thing from my perspective, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this too, but is how much it ties the whole team together. It gives us a place that is like our place and our responsibility to do whatever we want to do with. And it's such a unique opportunity to have our bi-level set up, our cable set up, the boat lake to do things and
And just this house
yeah,
to have a
exactly.
meeting ground, right?
Yeah. So it's such a wild property and playground that we have, but it's only what we do with it.
Right.
So it's an open book for us to
It's only
decide.
what we do with it.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
a blank canvas, right?
That's right.
But what sticks out like memory wise or like what okay, so we're not so broad. What has been like photo shoot wise, setup wise, whatever, like when you look back and you're like, that was legit. Like it doesn't have to be you.
Yeah, no.
Like what over the big picture, what really sticks out?
I think the biggest memory that I have that is like that was kind of a game changer moment was when we first did the big air um, out here with the bi-level setup and built this whole thing, rebuilt it, um, had this huge landing ramp.
Yeah.
Brad built a mock XL kicker for the
Right.
top
I
part.
remember that.
And the first time he hit it, it was just like we had no idea what speed to go, no idea, kind of no idea about anything. It was just like we have a short run up and this huge gap to get over, and we'll see how it works.
And Brad was right there suited and booted,
Oh,
ready to
he
go.
was dead set on being the first one to do it because he had put the most time in out of anybody to build it, and he
Yeah,
was the
you did.
most excited about it. And it was as soon as it was done, set up and ready to go, he was first in line. Everybody else was terrified,
Oh,
and he was like, "No,
no, he
I'm
was.
going."
I remember his energy when that was going on, and he was just like because that shoot specifically, we had that big wall,
Hmm.
remember, and we had the kicker set up, and he was like that was an insane step up.
Yeah, that mega wall.
He was just going berserk that
Absolutely.
entire shoot, and I remember because like that was like what year was that? 13 maybe somewhere in there.
Something like that.
And I, like that's like when I was like, still riding a little bit and, getting a couple shots here and there, but that's when I really picked up the camera again and was started and it wasn't like obviously Mariano was a main part of shooting and we still had some other shooters and I was just kind of like off to the side just like kind of getting in the game.
Hmm.
And but I remember like sitting there filming a couple things and just thinking to myself just like dude, this guy just stepped it up like just literally like took it to a whole nother place.
Yeah, it was fully like kind of the start of the shoot, right? Because we had
Hmm.
just built the big wall,
Hmm.
we had just done the big air, and he was like the driver of those projects essentially,
Yeah,
and he was so motivated to build it and to see the motivation turn into he wasn't just motivated to help out and get it done.
but
He wanted to do the thing,
yeah,
and he was straight drive to make it happen and
yeah,
kind of I think he stepped up his wakeboarding level at that shoot like immensely. It was just like he was obviously already an amazing wakeboarder, but it was just like, oh, it's game on now.
right,
Brad's unstoppable.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I will never forget that whole era ever, ever, ever of the lake. And one of my favorite pictures that really strikes a memory that I have, and I still have it on my phone, and I'll always keep it on my phone, is the picture of all of us sitting up on that wall,
Mm-hmm.
and I took it with a GoPro extended out,
Yeah.
and it's us eating lunch
Right on top of the
on
wall.
scaffolding, like
Yeah.
that old picture from New York where
Yeah.
all the construction guys from the 1920s are
Yeah.
eating
That's in
lunch.
like every sub
Yeah,
shop that you'll see.
exactly. I made it black and white and whatever. Like, yeah, that is that's a good one.
Yeah,
That brings back good memories.
for sure.
But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to something else, Jakey. So recently, well, not recently, but in the last how long has it been now? I can't even think. Well, I haven't asked you the question yet, so you don't know what I'm saying.
I don't know yet.
But you're you know, you ventured out. You're living in Clear Lake. What's that vibe like? I mean, Clear Lake is a historical wakeboarding lake that so much stuff has gone down on from, I mean, the later years of, kind of broken up Pointless, but Colin Harrington filming big sections on that. Early wakeboarding. Thomas Harrell lived on that lake and filmed Spumato, which is an insane wake skate video that came out a long time ago, but just such a rich wakeboarding culture that you have immersed yourself into. How's life been there?
Well, it's been about the best move possible, I think. It's such a cool community, as you know. You're my neighbor.
Hmm.
And so being able to be at a place with like that much wakeboarding history and also just such a lively current wakeboard community out there, like it's so easy to get out and ride with whoever you want. We're all on the canals. You're 5 doors down from me. Chad's another street up. Shane's across the canal. We just have such a cool community in there, and
Right.
yeah, it's cool. It's amazing to get to ride on that lake every day. See the stuff that continues to go down, but also in every old video, there's whether it's rails, whatever going down, there's endless content that has happened on Clear Lake that is very influential in where wakeboarding is today. So it's really really cool, and it's obvious there's a reason that so much has gone down there. I think it's a pretty special spot, and yeah, definitely great move. It's been a little over 2 years now.
Oh yeah, two
Been
years.
there.
Yeah, well, time flies.
Yep, and yeah, it's amazing. I'm
Yeah,
living at Langley's house, and we have a good crew right around there, and life's good.
it is good. It is cool. It's like it's hard to explain really, but it's like the canal system, and it's a place that was made in the late 50s and could never be exactly recreated again just because of so many laws when it comes to the what is it the uh well, like the Army Corps of Engineers built it, right? So like
Mm.
you'd never be able to build something like that in the middle of a city ever
Yeah, we're
again.
right south of downtown. Like
Exactly.
it's mind like the skyline there is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Was it built for Disney? I've heard that.
Well, okay, so it was built late 50s, um, and it was built for Martin Marietta and Disney executives and like a booming new Central Florida kind of you know just a rise in Central Florida with
Gotcha.
all kinds of military based stuff and also yeah,
So at the start of the
Disney.
boom of Orlando, it was like the new style of community.
Exactly,
Gotcha.
exactly, exactly.
Well, it made it a really cool spot for us wakeboarders.
I mean, who would have thought, right?
Right?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Yeah, it's cool. Well, we love having you there, Jiggy. We
Well,
love having you.
thank you. It's good to be a part of it.
Ah, that was a good set. But so I talked to Tai Tai about the evolution of the Supreme and what it was like to sit down with you and come up with a pro model and what you guys did to create a single wakeboard that can facilitate the needs of two totally different style riders and to make it completely fulfilling and also elevate your guys' riding. And from the start of the Supreme to where it is now, take such a, you know, an upward curve of just, I mean, you know, taking wakeboard, the way you look at designing a wakeboard, to another level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unique. It's been such a cool process, and having people like Jason and Tim that are helping us with, well, they're executing our ideas that might lead somewhere and might not. It's been really, really interesting. Like, I remember the first prototype that we got of it. Um, Jason had said we never tried this rocker line, and it was just kind of a random idea. And, doing the hybrid three stage and continuous has been something that's happened in the district before, in a way to make it very user friendly for entry to mid level. But we never experimented with the opposite of how do we make it, something
And
that anybody can
what
get
is,
on.
sorry to interrupt, but what is the district hybrid rocker line, and what's the opposite that is in the Supreme?
So the district has a three stage rocker through the belly of the board. So if you're looking at the center of the board, it's three stage in the middle and continuous in the edges.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it really user friendly when a rider's coming in to hit the wake. They're getting a continuous rocker, that is going to be super consistent off the wake. But it's kind of gives you that hybrid feeling that isn't going to say like, oh, you're a three stage guy or a continuous guy. So we've done that really well with the district, and obviously that's helped a lot of people's wakeboarding. And so kind of the thought was, can we do the opposite of that and do a continuous rocker in the belly and three stage edges? In theory, that gives you crazy snap off the wake with that three stage rocker in the edges when you're edging in, but displaces water on the landings with your continuous rocker.
Right.
And so Jason's like, "Oh yeah, we haven't tried that before. We can try it." And never had any say in what goes into a wakeboard. So it seemed like really weird and a lot of responsibility. We got the first prototype and it was terrible. And it was like not terrible because of how it was made, but just it just didn't work how we thought it was going to. But for me personally, I was like, oh no, did we just lead them down this rabbit hole that goes nowhere?
Right.
And everybody at Ronix was 0% deterred from moving forward with it. It was just like, no, we can figure it out. We've always been trying things. Things don't work.
Right.
We go through the process. Well, if it'll work, we'll figure it out. And so many iterations later, we were able to make it into something that for the first generation was a really rad board, I think, and kind of fit both Tyler and I's needs, like you said, which is pretty unique because I think we treat wakeboarding pretty differently
100%.
and ride very differently. So it was cool that it worked out for both of us, and we were able to get to a point that it was like, oh yeah, we're really happy with where this ended up, and it works for two very different riding styles. And so we did a lot of testing with it, and it was a super cool process to see how receptive everybody was to a different idea that didn't work at first, and just find our path and figure out a way to make it happen. So that was amazing. And as you said, the evolution of it has been really interesting to now being one of the lightest boards in the lineup, and
Right.
faster, snappier, and kind of just evolving with wakeboarding, with wakes, with riding styles to what current needs are. And when we first came out with the original shape, it's kind of like neither of us knew where to go from there. When it
Right.
was time to start redesigning it, it was like, well, we both like it.
That's always a hard thing. Is
Yeah.
where do we go from here?
For sure, for sure. And you've had a lot of experience with figuring out where to go. And both of us were young, had no clue, never experienced anything like it. And we were just like, I don't know. But we were able to kind of make the changes that made the most sense for our wakeboarding, for
Right.
most people's wakeboarding, boat wakes, and everything. And it's been a super, super cool process for sure.
Yeah, well, when you got guys like, Jason, Tim, and Paul behind you pushing the R&D process. You got Mike Ferraro down here, doing what he does.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's super cool to see whether it's a Supreme board or wake surf or foil. There's, we try way more things than end up going anywhere.
Right.
But it's the investment in the R&D that makes stuff so good and so interesting and unique. And so it's cool. Be like one of the amazing things about the lake is our private test facility. So
Exactly.
we have all this space to test everything. Most of it doesn't work, some of it does, and it leads us to some super cool places. And to have people that are like everyone's excited to try new things, it's fun.
Right. Right. So, when I was talking to Mossy, I asked him about his favorite Chad Sharp story. I want to know. We haven't dug into this at all. We talked about, Ty and I talked about Mike Ferraro a little bit about R&D stuff. I would like, because you grew up terrorized by Mike, right? So why don't you why don't you give us a good Mike Ferraro story?
I definitely grew up terrorized by Mike. That's a very fair statement, I think. He would downplay it, but no. But he's amazing, as you know, one of the most entertaining
Oh, I love the
people
guy. Love the guy.
out here. Man, my favorite Mike story.
Or just a solid Mikeism from the lake because he's a staple out here. Whether he's on the lawnmower or asking you a bunch of random questions that have to do with nothing that he somehow comes to some grand conclusion on something from.
He does dive really deep down these random rabbit holes. Every now and then they lead to somewhere though. Like we'll be testing a wake surfboard and he'll be going off on this tangent that somehow circles back to where the water line was breaking on the surfboard, and it's a revolutionary thought. And it's like, where did that even come from? But I think I wasn't actually really a part of this, but I was young and around and like observing it. But, Mike is a big iPhone guy.
Oh, yes, he is.
And one of his very proud things, which I think he's still proud to this day, is having developer software.
Loves it.
And he always likes to be in on the action. And so when we're doing our photo shoots, you can always count on Mike being somewhere in the background of a photo somewhere, holding up his phone.
Background or in the foreground?
He very well could be standing directly in front of.
Yeah, Bear's got a whole shot framed out, and then Mike just walks in the middle of it.
So one of my favorite things was Performance did a banner on the side of their shop that was Adam Arrington doing a huge method over the big air.
Okay.
And Ferraro's in the background.
I remember that.
Ferraro's in the background right under this sick method that Adam's doing. Shot amazingly, beautiful shot. And then you see Mike in the background holding his phone up.
He's kind of got a token stance, doesn't he?
Oh, 100%. You can find it.
He's adjusting because he can't really see the screen.
Yeah.
So he's like,
Probably got one eye closed,
yeah.
reading glasses on.
Yeah.
And I think they put a bow tie on him or something, but it was a huge, 10-foot by 10-foot banner on their window sticker for the longest time. And that's one of my like funniest things because it still happens to this day.
Right.
He still is always involved. He's helping out with everything.
It's a constant.
And then he's just like, oh, I need to get this. And yeah, yesterday he showed me a video that he took while you guys are out here getting the craziest shots. And Mike's super proud of his iPhone video. But
Yeah.
it's the developer software.
It's all developer software. Yeah. Let's see here, Jakey. Where are we gonna go from here? Let's talk about your riding specifically. When when you're on the water, one thing I have noticed, and I actually was kind of into this myself when I was riding, is you like to take some random tricks and do them switch and regular. like your back fives. That's super cool. Where like from like a Ty and Mossy perspective, where like they're just kind of like going all over the place, and like Mossy's got a very, incorporating all this weird style and fashion into his whatever. Ty is very, technical with style added, and you just kind of have a nonchalant approach to what you're doing. What kind of leads into your thought process on the water?
It's another one that has never crossed my mind before. But I would say there's a few people that have been very influential in kind of how I look at wakeboarding. Danny Harf is one,
Definitely.
you are one, Sean Murray is one,
Yep.
and Josh Palma is another one.
Okay, okay, okay.
And so when I was growing up riding, I lived on this lake that Murray lived on, Palma lived on, Jerry Nutt.
Old whippoorwill.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And so there was a crazy community of wakeboarders out there, and that was why I got into it, was just seeing them out there riding. And so I started riding with Palma a lot. And one of the things that he could do was just about every trick regular and switch. And it was pretty mind blowing. I don't know if you knew that or really
No, I actually do remember that he did a bunch of switch, like super random switch stuff.
yeah, it was wild to see because he could pretty much do every trick he could do on a wakeboard, regular and switch. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And he did it really well, and it was super hard to tell the difference of what was regular and what was switch. And so that was really interesting to me, and I've kind of liked that idea for a while. And then I think both you and Danny have a very relaxed style of wakeboarding where everything is just really smooth. It looks effortless. And whether it's a crazy new trick or just Danny doing a wrapped off axis toe back 180, it just looks wild. And it's not the most tweaked out grab and or the most awkward reach for a grab or whatever, but everything just looks effortless. And that's something that I've kind of tried to take and do something with, is to try to emulate that a little bit, because I think that style of wakeboarding is really interesting, to try to take something that takes a lot of effort and make it not quite look like it. And a lot of it's a work in progress always, as you know. But that's definitely been a driving influence for my riding. I think the Palma regular and switch, you guys just smooth and effortless, and then Murray has been somebody that has had more fun on the water and pushed the side of riding that is fun for as long
Most
as he's
definitely.
been doing it.
Most definitely.
So all those little things had a big impact on me, and I think unintentionally kind of translated to wakeboarding and the approach that I try to take at it.
I like it. I like it. I like that, Jakey. It makes me think a little bit. All right, I'm done thinking. Well, Jakey, from someone from a young age who has understood the industry, seen seen a bigger picture, I want to I want to know what as a insanely talented rider on the water, someone seeing the bigger picture off the water. What's in store for the future?
It's a really good question.
We're okay. Not necessarily what's in store for the future, like where whatever. Not where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be? Because I feel like you have there's more to Jake Pelot and wakeboarding after wakeboarding.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I hope you're right. Obviously, wakeboarding is amazing and really fun, and it's such a fun crowd, and it's a really passion-driven industry, especially with a lot of the companies like Ronix that it's like very family oriented and everybody's in it because it's something that you love and love to be a part of, whether it's a Saturday on the boat or you're waking up at the crack of dawn to go for a wakeboard set and try to push yourself.
Right.
And that's something that I really like to see, and seeing, you know, jobs in industries, this is one that I would like to stay in well past the wakeboarding doesn't do it anymore. And so yeah, I think staying in water sports is hopefully in the future, and that's the plan for now. As far as what, I don't really know, but I think as long as I get to still be involved with people like Square One and Taiga and everybody that is the family oriented companies that are really cool to be a part of and see, and just continue to have the passion to go to work every day, whether it's wakeboarding or a more traditional job. I think the root of the passion is where I want to stay, and that's definitely for me. It's water sports. So, yeah, we'll see.
Love it. Love it. All right, Jakey. Well, it's been a pleasure watching you grow up, being a good friend of yours, a neighbor, and congratulations, my friend. And can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you for having me, Rocky. That was really fun.
Cheers, gang. See you next time.